This is a collective of experiences and real-world training from members across the United States. This is not just one man's opinion. Our first episode featured 4 of those contributors, and for the next few weeks, we're going to just be highlighting one author at a time that put extensive work into the writing of this book.
We're talking to each one of the contributors to this awesome work. These are men who bring decades of experience in ministry, law enforcement, legal practice, as we'll hear today, security operations, and church ministry leadership. So that's what makes this so unique. That's what makes the FBSN so unique. It's the collective experience rather than just one man's opinion. So joining me today is Denny Yoder. He's been our legal advisor at FBSN for many years. He's been an incredible member, and we value so much of your contributions to this book and to everything that you've done for the FBSN and our members. So thank you, Denny. And I'll start out by just asking you what motivated you personally to contribute to this book.
Well, first, I guess I would have to start with I decided to get involved with FBSN because of Carl Chem, who was a friend, and we were facing some challenges, shall we say, organizationally. And as a believer and an attorney for many years, who's worked with nonprofits, I enjoyed helping Christian nonprofits that have a strategic mission, as clearly FBSN has. Now, on the specific subject of this Watchful Shepherd book, obviously the whole concept is to provide our members tools that they can use in being prepared as watchful shepherds in their support for the churches and Christian schools that we serve. I mentioned Christian schools because I had worked directly with one a number of years ago. That's how I first became aware of FBSN.
And you have quite a unique history that has brought you here. You are a retired colonel, I believe, from the Air Force. Is that where your legal career began?
Yes, I went to law school at Notre Dame, graduated from there many, many eons ago. And then after that, the Air Force sent me back for international law for another year at the University of Michigan. I then, as a member of the Air Force, served for 22 years. And as you pointed out, I did retire as an 06 full colonel, as we refer to it, and enormously enjoyed serving my country through the U.S. Air Force. I then went into private practice. I should say, first, I went into a Christian nonprofit and served on staff, uh, uh, ending up in senior leadership with that Christian nonprofit after 18 years. And then went into a private practice as an attorney and did a lot of family law work as well as extensive work with Christian nonprofits who I advised and supported, including a Christian school that I served directly at.
Yeah. All of that combined has given you a wealth of understanding into one of the first questions that I'm going to ask you, and it's about thorough background checks. Why is it important for churches to do that when selecting team members?
Sure. Well, we are, in my biased opinion, an overly litigious society. That said, obviously, in a fallen world, the potential for one party harming another, even among Christians, is significant. Lawsuits are way too common in our culture. The risk of liability exposure is great. Obviously, it points out a number of reasons, but clearly, background checks for people serving in positions of security support staff or volunteers, most of which are volunteers, in our churches and schools becomes extremely important. Obviously, when you're dealing with security issues you can face in these facilities, including the potential for violence, uh, you need to be well prepared, and we need to make darn sure the people that we allow to serve in this capacity in our churches are mature Christians, a great deal of background in security, particularly valuable, of course, if they've had police or military security background. And it's important that they have a very clean record. If they have any misconduct in their background, including domestic related issues that regrettably are too common, any past indications of violence, it's extremely dangerous to bring them on our teams, and we should not. I've actually seen ministries put on the edge by poor decision making on bringing security team members into the play. Most of our security team members are just outstanding, but we must have background checks to ensure that we can bring them into this role without putting the ministry itself at risk.
Yeah, something that I just read recently doing the deadly force incident study and interviews about some of the big attacks on churches. One of the biggest attack was Sutherland Springs, and the National Threat Assessment Center just put out a paper on the link between domestic violence and mass murders. They did a case study on Sutherland Springs, and it was interesting. The killer in this case, he had a record dating back from high school of relational abuse and then domestic abuse later on, and he was always drawn to security operator type positions and continued to get those. So that one stands out in my mind when I hear you talking about the importance of those background checks.
Absolutely. And of course, we think of cases in which you have people that have been radicalized in some way or politically involved in organizations that believe in violence, as well as the personal issues that we face. I dealt a lot personally with more on the family law side and domestic side, and really important there. There's any hint of a tendency towards violence, a lack of a balanced understanding of how you perform as a believer, always wanting to protect our congregations, but doing so with grace. You really have to have good background checks to protect us as Christian organizations.
Right. Another really important piece that we can get caught up in legal issues is our NOIs. Note that is something the FBSN has recommended, but how do we use these properly? And can you explain what exactly an NOI is first of all, for those that don't know?
Sure. Notices provide information, in our case, to our members of an individual that could potentially be a danger, risk of violence, or other inappropriate activities or conduct that we want our congregations to be aware of. Those notices can be provided through various sources. You can have, obviously, police reporting, other associations or organizations that look at potential perpetrators of violence. And then that in turn, we can provide as a notice of information to our team members, our volunteers, our association members, so forth. But again, great wisdom is required in employing these. We at FBSN actually faced a lawsuit that involved NOI and an individual who claimed that the NOIs were improperly used to identify him in this case. Fortunately, we won that suit. We were able to get it dismissed. But it points out that there is a risk if you're putting these down, if you don't have, forgive my English, your ducks lined up and really have your facts straight. You cannot provide NOIs based on speculation. If you claim that the individual was convicted of A when in fact it was D, maybe something much less serious, you're asking for violations of privacy, defamation of character, a variety of things. But handled well, they can be imperative to help protect our churches from the risk of those that may wish to cause harm to our members.
Yeah.
And we at FBSN worked hard in putting those together. I know that it's been suggested at this stage that these be handled largely regionally by our regional teams, but all the same cautions go into play. You got to make sure of your facts. You need to limit who and how you report to your members. If in a well-intended effort, you start reporting outside your membership, your liability potential goes way up because these are not parties that are a part of the association and entitled to the information that we provide. So great caution, but great value.
Yeah. And along those same lines, can we talk about confidentiality agreements and the protection of sensitive information?
It's absolutely imperative for the protection of our membership and our association that we have confidentiality agreements with both our members, our staff, particularly our security teams, and the risk of misuse of confidential information, again, a great source of potential liability. So we at FBSM have put together what I think is a quite thorough, well thought out confidentiality agreement to ensure what should be a natural thing, and that is that you and I, as members, use the confidential information we are given access to in our roles consistent with the intent of that information being provided. You don't provide it outside the FBM leadership or members, those that are in fact are entitled to receive it. You must make sure that you properly communicate with leadership. If you are providing confidential information in any situation that could create issues, even with contractors, in fact, sometimes especially with contractors, we have to be very careful. If we're receiving confidentiality information from a member and we share that improperly, it undermines trust by our members and our ability to safeguard FBSN. And again, is another source of liability in our culture.
Yeah, I was flipping through here to find. We have all sorts of appendix documents in this book that you can find and download. And if you're a member, you can download them online and tailor them to your own church's needs. So if you're not a member, they're still in the book, and you can use that as a template to create your own. So it's a great resource. Let's put it in there the right way. This is a great resource, and we're so grateful for all of the work, the many contributors that we had to this book, including Denny. So thank you for what you brought to this and for what you bring to this organization. And I hope our viewers will go ahead and take the next step. I'll put links to order this book and to join our membership. If you serve your church in a security capacity, I would absolutely encourage you to get plugged into this network to learn more and to share information.
One other comment, I guess, that really strikes me, and that is this is an extremely valuable resource. What I've found in advising a Christian school, for example, that they came to these subjects with almost no background. They didn't have any meaningful appreciation of the security risks, the great experience provided by many in the police environment and military background, as well as from a legal perspective, in trying to protect you and your organization from liability exposure. Our desire is to enable you to do what you do that is so important in providing security to those that you're there to serve without personally being vulnerable. Ergo, other issues like insurance. Very wise, both from the church or schools basis that they have good insurance, but you individually need good insurance, especially if you're carrying weapons. So, well thought out procedures give confidence to our members and those that are interested in doing their jobs well, in serving our congregations and protecting them. And this, I couldn't agree more that this Grateful Shepherd resource is just enormously valuable. And it's the kind of thing that we want to give our members so they can focus on what they do well in a protected mode and secure mode. And we're talking about a whole lot more than just violence here. I mean, everything from medical issues, you name it, any variety of issues have to be dealt with by our security teams. And we want to do it well with professionalism and in a way that protects our organizations.